was questioning Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson at the Supreme Court confirmation hearing.
Wesley Hawkins back under conditions of confinement with the Bureau of Prisons for 6 months with additional restrictions on his computer usage. That's twice the amount of time in custody that you sentenced him to in 2013. What did Wesley Hawkins do in 2019, Judge?
Oh, I don't remember, Senator. I have a lot of defendants who I've sentenced who are on supervision, who violate conditions of supervision. If in our system, someone like Mr. Hawkins, especially given the crime, the egregious crime that he committed, was likely on a very long period of supervision. And during that time, he would likely be under computer restrictions for 10, 20 years or something, where he's not allowed to do certain things with a computer. And a probation officer is monitoring. They put software on the computers of individuals who are who have these kinds of conditions imposed, and that restricts their ability to access certain information on the internet. And so it's not uncommon for a probation officer to report violations of supervised release, not just in this area, but across all crimes. And then the court has to determine how to handle that. And you could, in fact, send someone back to jail for violating conditions of supervised release that are not themselves criminal behavior. It's just, the court says in their supervision order, I'm imposing a 20-year or whatever it is sentence of supervision, and during this time you're not allowed to access your computer, et cetera, et cetera. So if he were to do that, it wouldn't be additional criminal behavior, but it would be a violation of my order. And when he comes back to the court on violation, the court has factors that we look at to determine whether or not to treat that essentially as the kind of violation that would require him to go back to jail.
Judge, yesterday we had
internet
an extended
restrictions on Trump's
conversation after
insurrectionists.
sentencing a man named Keith Hodges, a fentanyl kingpin. That
January
sentencing
6th
occurred in 2018.
rioters
You
and
had
all the Trump
very
near
detailed
network.
recall of that sentence. To my knowledge, that's the only time anyone's asked you about Mr. Hodges' sentence. You've been asked repeatedly over the last 2 days about the Hawkins case. It's been in the news, as Senator Durbin has cited, for days on end. This resentencing happened in 2019, and now you're saying you don't have any recollection of it. Let me see if I can refresh your recollection. This is the order you signed, Judge, on April 17th, 2019, in USA v. Hawkins. And it says that you concur with the recommendation of the probation office to return him to residential reentry facility for 180 days and to engage in various kinds of computer monitoring and computer monitoring and search. There's your signature over there, Judge. You really don't remember what?
Senator, that is a very, very common thing that judges do. I've sentenced over 100 people, and supervised release, which is the kind of post-incarceration condition that judges ordinarily impose, is something that's done on a standard form, which is what that is.
I understand you've done a lot, Judge, but none of them have been the centerpiece of your hearing for the last 2 days. Do you really expect this committee to believe that you don't remember what happened in this Hawkins case when it came back before you?
Yes, Senator, I do expect you to believe that's my testimony.
Well, I don't find it credible, Judge. It's been in the news for days. Senator Durbin has cited it being in the news for days. You've been asked about it probably more than any other case you've ever had.
Because you keep talking about it and putting it in the news.
I just don't find it credible that you weren't prepared for that matter in 2019. You know what I think? I think he got caught with child pornography again, and he wouldn't have if he had been in prison for the 8 to 10 years the guidelines called for in 2013 when you first sentenced him. Let's turn, though, to your work for detainees at Guantanamo Bay. First off, let me just ask, do you think most
Political
detainees
prisoners,
at
right?
Guantanamo Bay were mostly terrorists or mostly,
What about most of the
I don't
J6
know, innocent
Trump
drug
insurrectionists?
farmers?
Mostly terrorists? or mostly innocent goat farmers?
Senator, it's impossible for me to answer that question. The people at Guantanamo Bay had been accused by the government of engaging in terrorist activities and therefore classified by the executive branch as enemy combatants.
Like
Okay,
Trump.
do you think America would be
Keep asking
safer
the
or
questions.
less safe if we released all the detainees?
Would it be safer or less safe if we arrest Trump and all Trump-ooniers, including
Senator,
you, Tom Cotton, including Ted Cruz, including Josh Hawley? Would it be safer or less safe? Answer the question.
To figure out how to answer that question. 9/11 was a terrible attack on our country, and the executive branch,
Ask Bush
pursuant
about it.
to authority that the Supreme Court said it had, designated people as enemy combatants and sent them to Guantanamo Bay. The Supreme Court also said that anybody who was so detained could seek review of their detention. And as a federal public defender, my role and responsibility was to make arguments in defense of the Constitution and in service to the court that was trying to assess, based on the authority given to it by the Supreme Court, whether or not people were adequately classified, what the legal circumstances were, how these habeas petitions were going to be processed.